All right, for much more on the Columbus Blue Jackets, we're joined by Blue Jackets beat writer for the Columbus Dispatch, Aaron Portzline. Aaron, you're around this team as much as anybody. Let's be honest, going into the season, not a lot of people expected this team to have that much success. Where would you rate your surprise level to the fact that we're 10 games left in the season, this team's very much alive for a playoff spot?
Yeah, well, on a scale of 1 to 10, it's got to be a 12. I mean, not only did nobody expect this much success, nobody expected any success. I mean, if you look around the league at all the preseason publications, it was unanimous that they were 30th in the league. And you know what? I think they've even surprised some people in the building. They've probably even surprised a lot of people in the dressing room, although they won't acknowledge it. They're one of the feel-good stories in the league this year, for sure.
They certainly have. I mean, you flip on any of the national television networks, I mean, they're talking about the Columbus Blue Jackets. It's been a long time since this team's been talked about in a positive light.
Yeah.
How much was this optimism now that we have with this team, how much was a positive boost needed for this organization? Because, let's be honest, the last few years have been pretty rough.
Yeah, well, especially last season. Last season, you could make a very strong case that last season was the most disappointing season in franchise history, which is really saying something given how they've struggled. With the payroll way up here, the results way down here, players wanting out of Columbus, not a pretty sight at all. And now you're at a situation where they've got some prospects coming up. They've got 3 first-round draft picks. They've got a playoff race that they're in here. Nobody could have seen this coming.
Going into tonight, they were just outside that top 8 for the playoffs, came off a back-to-back, split with Nashville and St. Louis. Even with the loss on Friday night, still very much alive, but it's going to be tough. 10 games left, 6 on the road, but it's going to start off with 3 in a row at home. How crucial is these 3 at home? Because if they're really going to have any chance to get in, they're probably going to take 6 points in these 3.
Yeah, well, it's overused in sports, the phrase must win. It's not overused at this point. It's accurate. I mean, if you look at where this is going and what the projections are, they maybe can lose 2 games the rest of the way. It's that thin now. They've got to get probably 16 points out of these final 10 games. And given the way that they've played on the road, that suggests they need to win all of these home games and preferably do it in regulation so the other team doesn't get even a point.
They've been lights out at home and one of the better home records in all the league. So it's not out of the question to think they'll take the Final 4 at home, giving them a fighter's chance. There's the last 6 on the road.
Yeah, I mean, because road's been the struggle. The thing is, when you start the season 5-12-2, when they do, it's an unbelievable turn of events to even be in this discussion right now, but it really leaves you with no margin for error. Like, they played well last night in St. Louis. If they got a point out of it, you feel really good about those 2 games. But coming out of a game without any points at all, that's if they can't do that more than maybe twice in their final 10 games.
You mentioned the start, and really after that, not many people thought this team was going to be playing for a playoff spot.
Yeah.
They go on that 12-game point streak, and suddenly maybe John Davis and Jarmo Kekalainen go from we're going to be sellers at the trade deadline to now, well, we're going to have to be buyers. Talk about that quick switch for them to be able to change their mindset. And maybe in years past, the franchise hasn't really been able to do that, but these guys were able to really knock it out of the park on Wednesday.
Well, this is only the second time they've gone into a trade deadline looking to add, looking to get better. Typically, they've dumped. They've traded players for future hope and future promise. And some years it's been so bad that they've wanted to dump, and they have not found anybody willing to take what they had to sell. It has changed in the last 5 weeks or so. I think you were looking at a situation where they were prepared to sell off and bring in draft picks. They still didn't reach the point where they were cashing in everything for today, which is wise. But they did significantly upgrade this team. Marian Gaborik is a big-time player. I mean, one of probably the top 10 forwards in the National Hockey League when he's healthy and going well. He's been pretty good here, first 2 games for the Blue Jackets. They think they've got a difference maker. He's 31 years old, in his prime. They made big news at the trade deadline.
They want to keep him around. He's got 1 more year left on this deal. They can't really talk about that till the summer, but this is a guy they want to pretty much be the face of the franchise.
Right. They can't extend him until after July 1st. And then it becomes the question of, do you want him playing in a contract year, which typically players tend to do better than? Maybe they do. We'll see. They can't extend him until after July 1st, but they do want to keep him around. At 31 years old, he probably has another 5, 6, maybe 7 years of prime playing. This is a guy who's got 7 30-goal seasons, 3 40-goal seasons. He's had 14 career hat tricks. He's had a 5-goal game. This is a Rick Nash replacement for sure, different kind of player, but maybe even as an offensive talent to step up from what Nash was.
And that's what we were hoping for when this team started the season, to find some offense. Gabrick appears that he could be that guy. I think the biggest thing that came out of Wednesday, and you touched on it, they didn't salvage the future. They were able to keep all their first-round picks. They were able to build for now and for the future. I mean, it was a pretty good day for those guys to pull off what they did.
Yeah, and surprising because nobody saw them going after Gabrick, right? They actually dangled a first-round draft pick, the pick that they have from the Los Angeles Kings, and were able to sort of get some teams interested in that. But to be able to add a player like Gabrick, who changes their dimension up front, gives them a line now that other teams have to worry about or focus on with their checking line, and to be able to acquire that without giving up a first-round draft pick, that's a big-time deal. And now they've got all three of those. It doesn't mean that they're going to spend those draft picks on actual players next year at the draft, but they have the potential now to move those players, those picks rather, for established players again. This could be a quicker brick by brick than anybody ever anticipated, even John Davidson.
Which is fantastic for the fan base, has been hungry and thirsty for a winner for quite some time now. You look at this season as a whole, and maybe the best story that's come out of it is Between the Pipes with Sergei Bobrovsky. I mean, we saw in 2009 Steve Mason had that one great year.
Sure.
Kind of didn't really pan out long term. If you look at it, it's not that you have the crystal ball, but are we looking at a one-year flash in the pan kind of guy, or is this a guy that we can continue to see this and maybe hope that this is going to be a long-term solution for them in goal?
Yeah, well, as you said, nobody can say. I mean, nobody could have predicted Steve Mason doing what he did, and there have been others. The NHL is full of guys who have had great starts and have flamed out after that. What makes you think maybe it's going to be different for Bobrovsky? He came here to Columbus with a reputation as an incredibly hard worker. And he has proven that to be true. Even though he's playing as much as he does, nobody practices harder than he does. Nobody rides the bike more than he does. Nobody picks the brains of his teammates more about what did they see, why did you shoot there, what are you seeing when you come in on me in practice, these sort of things. He is a relentless worker. That's the kind of stuff that makes people think he can get by rough patches. There's going to be rough patches. It's the professional ranks of sports, where it's a very, very fine line, and everybody gets humbled at some point. It's your ability to push through that and get over that. He works that hard. People think that he can do that, that he may be a #1 goalie.
If he can continue this, we could be having you back in here in a few weeks to talk some playoff hockey.
How about that?
That'd be a lot of fun. Aaron Portzline, Columbus Dispatch, appreciate you coming down.
Anytime.
All right.
Thanks.